But then I started working at IKEA at the return and the reclamation department, which is quite interesting because then you get to meet a lot of angry people. So I was really good at like anger management. I was like, but I would also say that my experience on Robinson made it grounded me because I was targeted. And
what do you mean targeted?
Since one of my friends, when she knew that I was going to Robinson, she said, "Amanda, you will have such a hard time because you are strong and you talk." I also have a hunting license.
Yeah?
I haven't shot anything, but because I'm a lazy hunter, I go out when it's nice days. Coming from a hunting family, if you look at this, if you eat meat, that's the right way to eat meat.
Yeah. Hey!
Hello! Hello!
Today we're chatting with Amanda. What we know about her so far is that she has been born and raised in Jämtland, close to Åre. She's also been on Expedition Robinson. That's all we know so far, but we will be getting to know her better together with you.
Okay, so I wanted to start by saying that I actually applied to go onto Robinson when in Belgium, way back when, like maybe 20 years ago. I actually had to write a letter to apply for it. But I never was picked, and I heard you actually got onto the show in Sweden. So how did that happen?
Oh my God, yeah. Well, I didn't really watch the shows. I didn't know what to expect. But I had a lot of friends who told me that I should apply for it. So I was sitting by my computer one day, and my mom just stopped by and said, "Amanda, have you seen that they're casting for Robinson?" And I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. So I just sat there. I filled in the application, did a quick video of myself and took a picture and then sent it. But the moment I sent it, I was like, I'm going to be in Robinson. I just knew it. So yeah, and then like 2 castings later and like a physical test and a psychological test. And I was on my way, and it was terrifying because I didn't know what to expect, but also very, like, I knew that I had experienced hunger. I know how hungry felt.
So you were casted after you got through the final casting, and then a couple of weeks later you had to go.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
But before that, you said like lots of people told you that you needed to go onto the show. Why? Why was that? What was their reason?
I don't know. I'm just like I'm sharing a lot of myself. I'm happy, and I'm doing a lot of weird things. I don't like what do you say? I'm not ashamed to show who I am, like in ways of being ugly or making jokes or being out in nature and like explaining like stupid stuff. Like, this is how you hammer a nail. Ding, 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 ding. And I just like, I think it was like 3 or 4 people. And like, it was like loose friends. It was not my best friends who told me. They were like people watching my stories on Instagram and were like, "You're so funny, you should apply." And then I just like, okay. And I told my mom, and she was like, "Yeah, you should. You could do it really good."
And have you always been into survival things? Like, has that been a part of you, or?
No. The thing is, I'm from the forest. I was basically born in the forest. So all the survival things I have in my backpack is just my life that have given it to me. But if you look at my family, they're not the ones who's up on the mountains. They're like very lazy, you know. They want to go on sun vacations. When we go up on the mountain, we take the snowmobile, and it's an active Caribou with like 60 horsepower, so it's a small thing. And like we go to the cabin in the woods, and we put up a fire and we grill some sausages. But you know, we're not like the one taking skis out or using like what is this called?
Fire starters.
Yeah, fire starters. Yeah, we have like fire.
But so you grew up around here then, around Åre, not in the center of Åre. You were in a smaller village somewhere.
Yeah.
Or?
So if you look like when you're coming to Åre, there's a lot of small villages. We have Mörsil, Järpen, Undersåker, and then Åre. In Mörsil, you take a left if you're aiming this way, and then you go like 10 kilometers in the forest. And it's like a gravel road, and people who's going there for the first time are wondering, where am I going?
We camped there. That's where we parked.
I think we were there, yeah. We were
tent.
quite impressed by that.
Was it like
area.
yeah. We call it Tippen.
Nice.
It's actually man-made. When they built the dam in Hockeren, so where all the big stones and everything they put out there. So that thing, it's a really like a lot of campers there in the summer. Like a lot of people from Germany, from Netherlands, from France.
Mm.
So it's
Yeah,
quite
when we
fun.
were there, it was a Belgian camper, and then us, and
And
then
a
Germans. So there
Yeah.
you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and you grew up there with other kids around, or was it just?
It was me and my brother
Oh.
in the beginning.
Yeah.
But then when I was, I think, 6, we had 3 girls moving into the village. And the youngest one was 2 years older than me, so at the same age as my brother. But my best friend lived in Mörsil. So in the summertime, we had to bicycle to each other.
Mm.
So it was like, you want to hang out today? Okay. At your place or my place? Okay, let's just meet halfway with the bicycles.
Okay. How long was the bike ride?
How?
How long was the bike ride?
It is 10 kilometers. I would say if you're going from Mörsil and up, it's heavier because then it's like uphill most of the way. But I would say maybe 20 minutes if you do it in a nice pace.
It was a good friendship then, too.
It was a really good friendship.
Perfect.
Are you still friends?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
So you went to school in Mörsil.
Yeah.
Then. How was that?
Back then, it was amazing. I had so amazing teachers. Like, they really cared for, like, the class. We were kind of small, maybe, I think, 21st, and then we became 30 when we went to 6th grade. And I think if I didn't go to that school, I would have failed school much more because I was just diagnosed with ADHD and I had the typical, like, everything of ADHD. 9 out of 9 on concentration, 9 out of 9 on keeping, like, the focus. So the teachers really cared for us and helped us, like, to get through. And then I also had my friend who is a smartass. So she helped
That's
me.
a different or an interesting subject. ADHD, I think, right now is a big problem in classes. But what did they do for you then that helped?
I don't know. They didn't give up.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, that's a beautiful way to see it.
Like, because I was the typical, like, guy ADHD. I was hyperactive, but I didn't do it in a mean way. I did it with, like, the glint in my eye. So they could be like, Amanda, come on. They set me in a separate classroom. Sometimes I felt really stupid, but then I had my best friend Sanna, and she could be like my extra teacher. She was like, Amanda, I explained this to you 3 times now. Just look at the math. And I was like, But I just think that they just was there, and I could talk to them.
Nice.
So it's kind of nice.
How long ago was this?
I went to 9th grade in 2009. I ended the 9th grade, which is quite easy to remember. But so in 2001, I started 1st grade, and then going up.
And you say back then, so now it changed, you think, the school, or what?
Yeah, it has. If you look in Mörsil now, they moved all the youth from Järpen to, and I think Järpen may be Undersåker to Mörsil. So the school is much bigger, and I think they have a lot of problem with, like, kids needing more attention, but they cannot give it to them. So if I were to go there today, I could see myself as a special need kid because I just needed, like, somebody to hold my ear and be like, do now, like, sit down. If I were to go there today, maybe my grades would have been less good, but I still could have made it through because when I think something is really interesting, I can just nerd my way into it.
So you finished that, and then what did you do after?
After that, I went to hotel and restaurant school in Åre.
Oh, yeah. How was
I
that?
chose something practical since I was not a theoretical person. And it was really good.
Yeah.
Like, amazing, started to learn how to waitress and to cook food. And since my mom is in the restaurant business, she had, like, hold the whip on me since I was 14. So
you worked at her place as well, or not?
Yeah, I did.
Nice.
I did it as a summer job and everything. So it was amazing.
Yeah.
And just going there and then to meet a lot of people and then to get, like, a foot in the restaurant business in Åre, it's quite fun. And especially in that age, it's amazing.
What kind of restaurant was it?
I worked in different restaurants, but I worked, among other things, at Grappa, the old Torvtak. And I was working there. I first had, like, a practical semester, what do you say, internship.
Yeah.
And then they asked me, would you like to start making pizza? And I was like, I don't know how to make pizza, but we'll learn you. And I stood there for 2 minutes. Then one of the sous chef came up to me and he said, Amanda, I'm so mad at you. Why? I've trying to learn how to bake pizza for 10 years and you do it in 2 minutes. I was like, yeah. There's a technique. That's why I'm doing this. Instead of like tossing the pizza dough like this, you can do it like that.
So you're a pizza master now.
A little bit. This is like 12 years ago, so some has fallen out, but I still remember some things.
So for the listeners who do not know the Swedish system, this is different than in other countries. When you're 16, you choose a direction, but it doesn't have to be only theoretical. It can be practical, like what you did. More direction, hotel, restaurant, which we think is incredible. That at that age you can already choose, and you don't have to sit behind a desk until you're 18 all day, every day. That's where we lost our focus, both of us.
Yeah.
So I think that's very cool. So you did that until you're 18, 19?
19, I would say. It's 3 years. I started 17, when I was 17.
Okay. And then, did you always stay in Åre, or did you ever leave this place?
Yeah.
Or,
Like when I grew up, I never wanted to go back to my village. It was so boring. I didn't understand why one could live there. My mom was taking pictures of the mountain, and people said, "Oh, you're never home blind?" And she was like, "No, it's so beautiful." I was like, it's so boring. But yeah, I moved away. Like directly after school, I went to Australia for 6 months. And when I came home from Australia, I just worked at Kall. I worked there for, I think, 1 month. And then I got offered to start working in Trondheim. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to Norway. I'm going to earn money and I'm going to travel. 5 years later, still there. Didn't travel much, but I had like a life.
What was it about Trondheim then that kept you there?
I think it was a combination of the people and the city. It was just around, like the city was not too big and it was not small. So you could have everything. And it was very like cultural. If you look at old buildings and if you look at the church and stuff, it's amazing.
And so what did you do there? What was your...
I did a lot of things. I worked some in restaurant, but then I started working at IKEA at the return and the reclamation department, which is quite interesting because then you get to meet a lot of angry people. So I was really good at like anger management. I was like just breathing. And one of my like best friends and also coworkers, she said, "One thing you can do, Amanda, is just say, I've said everything there is to say, and then say nothing and then look them dead in the eye." And I did that a lot of times, and I could say a lot of men. Like IKEA is very generous, very generous. If you had like broken something, we can give you the thing. But sometimes they try to like, yeah, it was like this, and they go on really, really hard. And then you say like, yeah, but you need to pay 100 kronor for that one, for example. And that's when they get angry because they don't want to pay. But then I'm just like, if you would have handled me with respect, I could have given it to you. But 100 kronor is nothing. Yeah. So yeah. So I worked there.
Okay.
That's a good skill to have.
Yeah.
Anger management. Did you use that in Expedition Robinson?
I would say yes, but also no. Since like my ADHD makes me go, that's no good. But I'm also very good at like following along, and I don't want the conflict. I just want everybody to have a nice time and have a good time.
I talked to somebody, I can't remember who it was recently, and it came up that you would come on the podcast. And that person said that the episodes he watched from you in Robinson, you really stood behind your values. Can you say something about that? Does it ring a bell, or what he means with that?
Yeah, I would say yes. The thing is, I'm honest. I can maybe be too honest for my own good. And I also go everything on my emotions. So if I tell you something, that's how it is. Like I cannot like backstab you or lie. So I think that is maybe what they meant, that because I was really bonding with the guy there. We were like friendship vibing really hard. And we were in separate teams. I can start by this. And the first competition, the first day was a man-on-man competition. And everybody was like, "Oh, but who should do it? Who should do it?" It was like swimming 50 meters. And I was like, "I like water." And they're like, "Yeah, just do it." And he got chosen from his team because he was fit. But on like when we both came to the boat and we just talked to each other, we instantly clicked, because we had the same like energy. And then we were vibing friendship-wise because we had so much common. And I think even though I didn't know him that good, I knew I can trust on you and you can trust on me. And I think that is what maybe they were talking about. Like I did never do anything like that I didn't say or do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So it sounds like you're also quite a direct person for a Swede in general.
Yes.
But
I would say the thing is, my boyfriend is Dutch, and he says, Amanda, you're more Dutch than me because I can be too honest. Like, oh, that was too honest. So yeah.
How did you become who you are? How are you so open and honest?
Yeah, this is something I've been thinking about a lot. Coming from a village with 25 people, it should not be possible to be the person I am. Because when I was like out, for example, working in Norway, I started to make friends who were non-Swedish in the what do you say? They didn't come from Sweden. And one of my friends, he said, "Are you sure that you're Swedish?" And I was like, "Why?" Because you're so open, honest, and very, what do you say? I give a lot. You know, my house is your house, and you will actually feel that it is your house, that kind of way. And I started with my mom. She's very open and like she gives good food when she's very housey. But I think actually it is because when I grew up, me and my brother, my mom and dad worked at the hotel in the village, and we had immigrants from I don't remember. Like it was the war in the 90s. Slovenia.
Yeah, okay, I know what you mean.
Yeah, Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia. Yeah. So there was a lot of people working there, and my mom and dad, they didn't put me on kindergarten that much, but I was at the hotel jumping from one like arms to another just because they wanted to care for us. So they were like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. So when my mom was working, she asked, oh, instead of us going down with Amanda to kindergarten, can you babysit Amanda? Yeah, of course I can. She also cleaned the house and, she cooked and everything. So I think like that community, if you look back into what humans actually are not made for, but like we come from villages. So I think that village community, just going from like one person to another, made me just open, very flexible.
Feels like a bit like Fenna, our daughter. She was raised on our bus, and we had so many different guests, and so she also was sitting on a lap of somebody else very fast. And she had a lot of babysitters and caretakers, so she got a lot of influences from different people. So that's kind of relatable to what you were saying, I think.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing, like you say, community is important.
I think so too. I think it's super important.
But now you went back to your old town. I guess you live there again.
Yeah, I did.
And is it a bigger community there now? Or
no, it's still small.
Yeah?
I think it depends on who's counting. I counted to 28 people recently, but then my neighbor said, no, we're 25. And I was like, okay. So somewhere between 25 and 28. But yeah, I moved back home in 2020. And after Trondheim, I moved to Gothenburg. Just like, I'm going to move to Gothenburg. But then one day there, I just felt not at home. I felt very clustered and I just need to come out from the city. And from the day I moved home, best feeling ever.
Really?
Yeah.
It's such a small community. How does that work for you as a bubbly person? You like to have a lot of engagement with other people, I guess. You go out a lot and you travel a lot, or you stay there?
My work now actually make it possible for me to travel away. So I work 1 week from home and 1 week away, which give me the perfect variation. But I would also say that my experience on Robinson made it grounded me. Because before I was on Robinson, I moved back home, I had my house, I started to renovating it, but I didn't feel like, okay, I cannot settle right now. I'm going to renovate my house, maybe rent it out, and then maybe go to Marbella to work as a real estate agent. I had, maybe do this, or do that. But then I went to Robinson, and the only thing I could really, really long for was Sällsjö and the quiet space and everything that was just silent.
And Sällsjö is the name of the village that you're living in.
Yeah.
Okay, and where does the Dutch boyfriend come into this story?
Oh, yeah. He actually moved to Åre just, I think, maybe 5 weeks before we matched on Tinder.
Oh.
Yeah. And he's from Groningen. So he one day when he was down there, I think it was a Sunday, he was out riding the bike and he was so sick and tired of all the people. So he's like, I need to move. I'm gonna move to Sweden. And he'd been to Stockholm once, but he was just like, Sweden is a good place. I will go there. Then he made a 1-year plan. Started with Duolingo that day, and he was like, I'm gonna learn Swedish. And he I think he had a 500-day streak before he ended.
Wow.
So it was quite a lot, yeah. So he made a plan. He came to Stockholm in March 2022, I think, and came to Åre in September, and we met in October. So, and I was not sure at first. I was like, seeing, like, and he said, oh, Dutch, 2 meters tall, da 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 da. And I was like, and I don't want to have like a Åre guy who's like typical seasonal, working in the restaurant and going out with skis. No. And I don't want other type of Åre villagers who is like wearing, what it's called, träskor. I don't know, but like, the wooden soles that you just put your feet in.
Klumpen.
Klumpen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they have like snus, and then they have a cap, and then they ride their like Audi and like dum 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 Wonder Bounce. I don't want that either. So I was like,
What did you want?
I don't know. The thing is, since I'm very open, I don't like usually go for the typical Swedish guy who's very dull. But I was like, Dutch, okay. We'd matched on Tinder, and we had the most amazing conversation ever. I was seriously laughing, and when you're laughing at a text, it's good. And like just only yesterday, I was so happy. I went to bed, and we both were just like smiling. And I said to Ron, I'm so happy, Ron, because you make me laugh every day. Like it can be small things that you just make fun of something, or you make fun of yourself, and then like, or tickling or something that's amazing.
That's really good news. And how do those two cultures work together in a relationship? Because we have it day to day. We meet a lot of Swedes and it works really well, but it's not in our relationship.
Yeah, I think it's really good. Like I'm very open. He has his family down in Groningen, and also he was born in Dumfries in Scotland, and he moved back down to Holland when he was 5 or 6, I think. So he has part of his family in Scotland, and then another one in Netherlands. But it's really like easy. I would say it's not a cultural difference. No, it's not. So very easy.
And he lives in the small village now as well with you.
Since August.
How is that for him then?
He loves it.
Yeah?
Yeah. The only thing he doesn't love is the gravel road. Because now, when it's been so wet outside, I think we had like 5 centimeters of just mush. Yeah. It's like blue clay on the road. So he came home yesterday, and his white car was basically gray and white. And he's like, yeah, I just washed that yesterday. And I was like, yeah, that's how you do. I actually took some of the like clay thing who came from the wheelhouse. It was like a pile on my like yard. I just took it up, and I was like, this is like blue clay. So I made a little heart and put it on the staircase. Like, cute.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Using real clay to make stuff.
Yeah.
Nice. So you mentioned you travel now each time for your job. You go away for a week. What is that about? What are you doing?
I work as a writer. Like, it's kind of like a journalist for a business magazine. So 1 week I'm home, and I'm doing admin. I do admin. And like book meetings with different companies. And then the other week I go out and meet them. And then it's like we make municipalities themes. So I start off with interviewing the municipality. So they talk about the businesses, like how it is to run a business maybe in that city, and what they can do for new businesses and what they're aiming for in the future. And then I interview different business from different like sectors or branch.
In Sweden?
Yeah, in Sweden. Yeah, north of Sweden. The newspaper or the magazine is actually from Gothenburg. And I think I have 10 colleagues that goes from Gothenburg. So I am the one who's furthest to the north. So my boss said like, yeah, so how far could you go on 6 hours? Like, I was like, yeah, by car, I would say 1/4 of the country, because then I have like a like huge bit like in the top that I cannot reach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you travel quite a bit then. You've seen a lot of Sweden then.
Not yet, but I'm aiming for it. I've been here in Åre, Krokom, Östersund, Sundsvall, Timrå, Kramfors, Härnösand, and then Hultsvik. It's way up.
And you said that the villages are diminishing, or are people moving out of the villages? Have you noticed that already while traveling? Yeah.
Yeah. When I start interviewing the municipality, they all have the same problem. They're like, so we're standing in a problem here. Since the 70s, we have been like going down in how many people are actually living in the city or the municipality. So they're all trying to make it attractive again. And I would say it's easier if you go along the coastline, because then you have the open water, you have the views, and it's like Stockholm. What is it called?
The archipelago.
Exactly. It's like that. But if you go into the country, there's nothing much happening.
What are they doing then to make it more interesting?
It's hard now. Okay, now I'm in Kramfors. It's a small. It's very close to Höga Kusten, very close, and they just try to attract tourists, and then they want to be really easy for companies to establish. So if a company has an idea, maybe they can give them some land and be very easy with the building contract and everything, and just trying to be there and helping. And then they're aiming for really good schools, care system. And when I was in Härnösand working, they were aiming for a healthier elders. So they were like, yeah, we have a program that says go out and be out, be active. So they have a big bull field for the elders, and they have a meeting point. So they really try to make everything very good for the people who live there. So people will be like, oh yeah, so a house here is actually 1/10 of a house in Stockholm. So
and it's a nice place to grow old, kind of.
Exactly.
In that sense.
And also have kids.
Yeah.
If you see down in south of Sweden now, there's a lot of things happening. Like they have a lot of gang criminalities. I would say there and here you could basically leave the key in the door. So
yeah, we also feel that here. It's so safe. The feeling you got here, and I guess in a smaller village is even more.
Yeah.
We have I think there's a website or an Instagram page or something where there's houses for sale in Sweden that are ridiculously low. Like I can't even understand it. It's the money's less than you would use the materials to buy it. But I find it interesting that is happening all over the country, and still people are still flocking towards the cities. That there's not that,
like the good thing for Sweden. If you look at the how do you say? If you want to have the Sweden's economy to grow, the good thing were actually to move all of the people in Sweden down to the south region, because then you can earn more money. But it's not good for the people. But if you look at the houses that are really cheap, they are cheap because there's no working. You cannot work from there. So there is actually a Dutch real estate agent who go reach out to Dutch people and sell houses for maybe 100,000 euros, which is nothing if you look at what it could cost, and also cheaper. I would say maybe sometimes 20,000 euros. And the what do you say, record of people moving there and then moving back was 2 weeks, because they realized there's no job opportunities here. So the real issue is to have jobs. But if you look at Corona, it made digital working space easier. So if you have something that you can actually work from home, it's perfect to just go there.
Yeah, we noticed that quite a lot of people are moving to rural Sweden because they want the quiet. As you know, Netherlands is way too populated. It's hard to find nature or a place where you don't hear anything. That's very rare. So when they think of Sweden, they think of a village in the middle of nowhere where they can live a quiet life. Yeah, we needed the opposite. We wanted the opposite. We didn't want Stockholm, but we wanted a town where there's a lot going on.
and then a
Yeah.
mountain.
And
Don't
the
forget to-
mountain.
Of
So
course.
we found our little paradise.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody looks for something else for sure.
Mm.
Speaking of the mountain, are you doing any sports at all in the mountains?
I do some skiing, like in the slopes. But now recently, I started to learn how to enjoy the just walking with skis. So I bought like a really good pair, and I was out so many times last year. And I would say that, and maybe snowmobile and normal stuff. But I'm not like extreme in anything.
But you got away from what your parents taught you, I guess, because they
Yeah.
only go with the snowmobile.
Yeah. Like, yeah, if I look at my parents, they're like typical Jämtland. Like back in the days, you needed to go from point A to point B the easiest way. You didn't want to do an exercise because you had less time and maybe it was like energy consuming. So this is the old way, just traveling easiest. But now, like, I've been out on just exploring mountaintops with friends and just being out hiking and then putting up a tent for one night. You don't need to hike far, but I like just doing that. It's so far away from what I grew up with.
Does your family understand that part? Or,
Yeah.
And they join now? Or
No.
are they, no.
My mom is like a house cat. She's lazy, not lazy, like she tries, but she's like baking sourdough and
Nice.
she's like very housey, good, make good food. And on a Saturday, like she can take a lap around the village, takes about 30 minutes. And then she go in, make some buns and then make some bread. So she's very like housey. And my dad, he loves the forest, the land that we're owning. And his big passion right now, and has been for the last 20 years, is to go and use like when you cut down small like not trees, but just before trees, he's taking care of the forest.
The bushes.
Yeah, like the bushes, yeah. So he's just out. Oh, today was an amazing day. I woke up at 6 and then I was out at 7 and I had like 2 gasoline tanks running out. I have drinking a lot of water, maybe sweating 2 liters. And now, yeah, I'm going to eat lunch and go out again.
And is he also hunting then, or?
Yeah.
So that's a real Jämtlander.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotta
I
go.
also have a hunting license.
Yeah?
I haven't
Okay.
shot anything, but because I'm a lazy hunter. I go out when it's nice days.
And what the kind of hunting have you learned to do then?
We have always done like sneaking hunting. So we don't use a dog, which means you go out and then you walk really quiet. And my dad, since he is like owning this land since 70s maybe, he knows where the moose are. He knows where they rest and where they should run if they hear something. And then he's like, yeah, so the wind, it goes like that today. Then we should start going there because then they can't smell us. And, he can just walk patiently. And this is so rare for being my dad because I have a lot of energy, but he has more. And now he's 71, but he's like 16 in his head. He just walks. And then he takes his gun and he stands like on a wooden like a stump. And then he just listens. And he said one time he just stood there and listened. And then just a moose head popped out.
Whoa.
And he was like taking down the rifle really slowly. And when he took off the safety thing, it went like very, very silently. But the moose was like, and then it went away. So he is now an expert. Like he's always been shooting moose every year.
Wow.
But he's also like lazy. He could easily go with the car, just walking on the road, very quiet. And then he says, you know where to shoot them? Right in the neck, so they just fall dead. And then you do it beside the road, so it's easy to take home. It's like, yeah. And I would say 9 out of 10 times it's like that. Then it's like, okay, the moose is down there in the ditch, so we can just, okay.
And so there's probably people listening that are like, oh, poor moose. Okay. How do you guys look at that issue? Is it an issue or is there too many and does this need to happen anyway? Or
I wouldn't say that it's too many like mooses, but coming from a hunting family, if you look at this, if you eat meat, that's the right way to eat meat.
Yeah.
If you look at the meat industry, then it's like a stressed animal. The way they're getting killed, it's very stressful for them. Now it's in their happy place. They've grew up on our land, eating our like pine tree sprouts. So it's a happy moose that dies. It doesn't get stressed meat. And we don't go for the like older animals. We don't go for the ones that actually can breed new. It's basically the younger ones we want because also the meat is better. And we also just hunt for us. We don't hunt for the hunting's sake. We don't hunt because we think it's fun. We hunt for filling the freezer.
Yeah.
Because that's
And
what
are
we
there
do.
any regulations on how many you can shoot or something?
Yeah, there is. It depends from year to year. But this year, it's a regulation where you can shoot. It depends on how big the land is also. I don't remember how many we can shoot this year, but you had to choose. Either you shoot the older animals, and then they need to have
The amount of antlers.
Exactly. And then they need to be an amount of years. And then you need to do that the entire season, or you go for the younger animals. So here, I think in Åre, people went for the younger animals, but up in the north, they went for the older animals. So I think we maybe had 2 mooses on our land, but we only need 1. So.
Yeah.
Do you eat everything from the moose, or is there?
You can, but no. I would say we eat basically everything, but you can eat the tongue if you want to. You can eat the maul thing if you want to. We don't do that. You can eat basically the intestines. No, we eat the meat, and the heart we give away. And if it's a very young animal, the liver, it's really good to eat. I don't eat it, but my dad is if it is a young animal, then my mom will prepare it the same day. Otherwise, it's not good. So we try to take care of everything.
And who do you give the heart to? Give it away?
My cousins.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we've done that. We've eaten it.
Yeah.
Because we read it's really healthy and it actually tastes really good.
Yeah, it's a big muscle. People think it's really weird to eat it, but if you think about it, it's a big muscle that works all the time. It's the best.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a cool
experience. We got it from a local hunter here as well.
Yeah.
It's like you say, it's the best way to eat meat if you want to eat meat. It's the local hunting, right?
But you said you have a license as well, but you never killed something. So how does that work? How can you have a license without?
Yeah, you need to have a license. You need to actually go to a hunting school and do that. So I did it in 2015 maybe, and I just got it, and I have a rifle and everything. But since I didn't live here then, I missed most of the hunting days. And now since I moved back home, I'm lazy. On Saturday morning, I don't go out if it's not a good day. And you don't need to be out that early. But imagine waking up 7 a.m. and then it's not a good weather. Then you're just no,
not today.
Not today.
But your goal is to eventually maybe shoot one at some point.
Yeah.
But you didn't have to shoot one during getting your license.
No, you shoot on a board.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like a moving board. So then you shoot for, I think it's bird, rabbit, and a moose.
So you could already hunt before you joined Expedition Robinson. Was that in your advantage when you joined?
Not hunting per se, I would say. The thing is, I also like to fish. And just the fish part, I would say, was more of an advantage. But being from the forest was a big advantage. And having a dad who basically, with ADHD, repeats everything he says because he thinks, I haven't told this. He can be looking at the clouds and yeah, now it's going to be bad weather. Do you know how you know that? And then he tells me. And I was like, yeah, I've heard it for 20 years now. Yeah, and stuff like that. So I knew how to look at the clouds and be now it's a shift in the wind, so it's gonna become bad weather. Now you can see also on the ocean, you can see when the ripples change, and it's gonna be bad weather, for example. And when we actually caught a fish, I knew how to grill it. And some people were like, "Oh, but you cannot eat this," and I was like, "It's done." Mm-hmm. It's not dry, so many people are very afraid of eating things that maybe are not super prepared, well cooked. So, but I was like, yeah, but this is good meat. If you want to grill it more, it will be super dry. You can do that if you're unsure.
And how did you catch the fish?
How we catch the fish? We actually had a guy in our group who had a fly tying set as a personal thing, but then we kept on winning. So we win a rod and a net as well. So I actually learned how to toss a tossing net, which was quite cool.
It's very cool. Yeah. And that works. You caught something.
Yeah.
Wow.
We did. We catch a lot of things. We had like one flat stingray and like a lot of small fishes, but like very small fish we could just put on like heated stones, and some people just ate them whole. I tried one and I was like, it's too much dirt. I don't want to eat this.
Because we had an American school bus that we turned into hostel on wheels. And with this bus, we were at some point on a Belgian television show. And the camera crew on that show had been filming for Expedition Robinson, Belgium.
Yeah.
So we asked them a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And we got to know, for example, that they use the same island for different countries. We didn't know that part. So the same, also the challenges that you have to do are the same for every country. And they also said it was very funny that everybody who joins this show knows that they need to get their own food from somewhere. And he said the Belgians, I don't know how it was for the Swedes, nobody knew how to fish. It was like, you're going to join. There's a lot of fish in the ocean. Come with the knowledge to know how to fish. So I thought that was pretty funny. But was that different for you guys? Did like everybody know how to do this? Or were you one of the only ones that had caught a fish before?
The thing is, we were separated in, we were like the older versus the younger. It was the first time in history that they separated people like that. And in our group, we had actually we were lucky that we were like 3 people knowing. And then we got a 4th who actually knew how to fish because we liked the fish. We knew how to build a camp, and we knew like what to look out for and how to make a fire and stuff like that. So we were lucky in our team. And I would say, but we had some people that were like, no idea. There was one girl who was like, I've never made a fire before, but I tried once at home in my kitchen on a plate with paper. And I was like, then she did like just on paper, like, okay, that works. And I was like, yeah, I can say that I didn't practice that much on making fire. You know, I never used a fire starter like this. I used like a lighter, but I knew the basics. And but
in your case, you knew at some point that you were going to be on the show. Did you prepare in any way, or did you just go for it?
The only way I prepared was, okay, I'm going to be like fit. I'm going to work out. I don't drink much alcohol, but I'm just not going to drink anything at all. So I can be in the best shape of my life. So I can compete in a really good way. So that was the only way I actually prepared. And I went out one time with my friend Camilla, and I was like, I think we should like, I maybe should start a fire. And she's like, yeah, but you're fine. I was like, yeah, but am I? She's like, yeah, you are. Just start small. And then I just tried, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be fine.
Okay.
So no, I didn't prepare very much.
How far did you go into the show? What was your exit point?
I came in 4th place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that just before the final then? Or
yeah.
Was that a sad moment, or was that
both?
Huh?
I was very sick and tired. I had my road was not very clear. It had a lot of obstacles, and it was on my self-esteem quite a lot because I was targeted. And
what do you mean targeted?
Since one of my friends, when she knew that I was going to Robinson, she said, Amanda, you will have such a hard time because you are strong and you talk. You are very like visible. So you'll be easy targets. Like you need to blend in the group and not
people
to be too
want you
strong.
Out, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you don't want to be too strong because then you're gonna be a threat later on in the show. So I was a target. Like people wanted me out. My teammates actually lost a competition on purpose because they wanted me out. So and it was also the first time in history that somebody just like, oh God, we're so bad at this, and I was like, they're doing it on purpose.
Oh wow.
So that was like my heart. But yeah, so when I lost in the final, there were one guy who had a lot of points, so he was like set to be in the final, and then we were 3 people left. And then the ones who were voted out just days before this, they had to put votes on one person to go in and be the second person in the final. And then it was between me and another woman. And it was a super easy like part where you were supposed to hold 2 sticks apart that looked like this. And it was like with rings on both ends. And then it was like a stick in the middle. So we were just standing holding like that, like keep them
so basically
apart.
Pure arm strength.
Yeah,
you just need to.
But it's not. You don't need to do it hard. It's just like static. But I was like holding it and I was looking at the handles and I was like, yeah, but if I have my pinky finger there and that handle and I have my pinky finger there, then it should be the same height. Hold it up and I realized it's like this and I was like, whoa. And then the stick just started to glide and I was like, standing there like, oh, fuck. I'm gonna lose. But when I went out, I was so happy because 42 or 41 days on a deserted island, not washing your hair, not having proper food, not sleeping in a bed, you're kind of happy to be out. But then thinking back, I was like, I could have managed one more night.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
How was the food story? Is there any like positive memories about that? Like the first fish you catch or other things or
like the first meal when you actually get something to prepare with some spices. That feeling, because you've been eating coconut. Looking back now, if I would do it again, I would not have been working out as hard as I did because my metabolism was so high. So I was high in calorie burning. So I was hungry all the time. So I was eating coconut and eating coconut. But a coconut is also very laxative. So if you eat too much coconut, it will come out. So I was just eating it and I was like, oh, okay, drinking water, just doing my best to survive. But then when you get the first meal, like, this is steak or this is something you can have chili flakes on or, that feeling, or the first prepared meal when we won rice and we actually could prepare it in a wok pan.
Yeah.
And we boiled down some seawater so we can have some salt on it.
Yeah, so you re-enjoy the basic things of life so much more. That's really cool. And were you hungry all the time?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, everybody or only you?
No, everybody.
Yeah.
Some people was not hungry, but I would say those were the one who didn't have a routine in their life. If you have a high routine, like wake up, breakfast, lunch, like snack, working out, dinner, then your body is like having a schedule. But if you're like waking up, maybe having breakfast or not having breakfast and maybe having lunch or even that, maybe just dinner, then your body is used to not getting the regular food. Those people were not hungry.
You should have done fasting as a preparation.
Yes.
More or less.
Yes.
That works.
I would
better.
recommend everybody to just do it. Maybe 3 weeks before started fasting because your body takes 3 weeks to get used to something. If you do that, you will have such an easy ride.
Yeah, because we do that now in our daily lives. We do a lot of intermittent fasting and we notice that it's so funny how we can go all day without food or until 2 or we can really listen to our stomach now. And in the beginning, you have all these misconceptions. Maybe it's not the same for everybody, by the way. Like I heard different opinions. But for us, we had this misconception that we cannot mountain bike without food. We cannot ski without food because we're going to do this energetic thing. We need to have calories in us. And often we feel like we perform a lot better on an empty stomach because our blood sugar level stays the same. And it's been an interesting ride now for a year and a half.
Yeah.
How far is your eating window?
Changes every day, but we try to do at least 14 hours.
Yeah, so the eating window is around 6 to 8 hours, depending on the day. Like 2 days ago, I did 24 hours not eating. But it's so easy now. In the beginning, it was very hard, but now it's almost the opposite because we went to Belgium last week and we got a lot of food everywhere with dinners and breakfast
and alcohol and
everything. And your body kind of adapts to it as well. Because after some point, I was like, oh, I'm hungry again. I need to eat more and more. It's like you're saying, your metabolism is higher, so you keep going more.
But it's really good with fasting. Like it has so many medical benefits. Yeah. And I actually, this is quite intimate, but like when I before went to Robinson, I had some lumps in my chest, checked them out, nothing wrong, but I had them. When I was on Robinson and I was fasting, I was starving, they disappeared. Because my body were like, why are we going to send nutrition to those lumps when we need to survive? So I would recommend.
Did you now make it a part of your life then as well? Or?
No.
That's okay.
The thing is, both yes and no. Like I have a 12-hour eating window and I have a rule. 1 hour from when I wake up, I cannot eat anything because my body needs to wake up and because it needs to do it in a natural way. So I don't eat anything. And if I wake up at 9, then I will eat at not before 10. But then I cannot eat my last meal later than 10 either. And but I don't usually eat at 10. It's going to be a very late dinner if I do that. But I just try to like in my working day, okay, breakfast at maybe 8, and then I have my dinner at 6 and no more. So I try to do it like that.
I think it's super fascinating, and there's so much more like detailed podcasts about this. So if you want to know more about it, definitely dive into it. But I've listened to some really good ones. And I think the thing that I remember the most about it, that we used to have to go out for food when we were like not having all these luxuries that we have at this point in our lives. So we always went out on an empty stomach to get food, and then we could eat. And now the first thing we do when we wake up is to eat. And that kind of clicked in my mind, like, okay, that's not normal. We should just wait till your body says, now you can go and eat. And I guess for some people, it's a different window. But just thinking about that makes a lot of sense.
You were saying earlier that you're not really drinking much coffee anymore. Is there a reason behind that? Or?
I just realized that I'm very sensitive to caffeine. So when I drink coffee, I have a hard time falling down in sleep. Hard time sleeping.
Yeah.
So I've stopped multiple times. And, you know, when you have drinking coffee a lot, you get a really bad headache. And then first time I actually did it, I was like, what am I poisoning my body with? Why am I having such a abstinence from caffeine? But now why I stopped is because just recently I was sick for 14 days and I didn't drink coffee. I didn't take my ADHD medication or anything. I was like very much just resting. And when I woke up at 9 in the morning and then like going to bed in the evening, when my boyfriend said that around 10, I'm going to bed, I'm just like, I'm tired and I will join. And I slept the best sleep. And now on Monday, when I started working again, I took one coffee because I was like, I want to have a little coffee. Couldn't sleep. I think I drank it like around 12, but coffee has a 6-hour like time of like the caffeine takes 6 hours to just cut in half. So after 12 hours, it's actually out of your system. If you drink coffee at 12, how will your melatonin, I think it's called the sleeping thing, how will that actually start to activate before you have caffeine in the body? So I think I fell asleep at around 4 in the morning. And when I was laying there thinking, I said, I will not drink coffee. But on my way here, I was talking to my boyfriend and I was like, I think I'm going to drink coffee today because I want to be very high. Like I want to be awake. And now when I don't drink it as much, I get really bing.
So we need to go party with you tonight.
Yes. So then I will be high on life.
I notice the same. If I drink coffee after 2 p.m, kind of.
Yeah.
Then I sleep. Yeah, it's harder for me to fall asleep. Whereas Tim can drink coffee just before he goes to bed and he's fine. So I think it really depends on the person.
Yeah.
I think I was just asking or thinking about that. Is something to do with your ADHD? Do you know that or?
I had no idea. But I know that like my medicine gets triggered by caffeine. So if I don't drink caffeine, I can take my medication and then 2 hours later I can be like, I'm going to sleep now. So then I can go to sleep. But if I take caffeine and the medication, it makes me just very much like high energy. So I don't know.
How
it could
was
be interesting.
it?
There might be studies about it. I don't know. It could be interesting.
I mean, I don't know either.
And I'm also wondering the medicine. How did that go? When did that start in your life? And
in August now.
Just
in August,
now.
Yeah. Like I've had. I hadn't had like problems. I knew it in school. I felt dumb, you know, but it was my concentration that I couldn't concentrate. And I was just, you know, my hyperactive. I was like just bouncing around. And like ADHD is very studied in small like boys and guys, but they're not studied in girls. But I said, if I were to be like small Amanda today, you could see on me that I had ADHD because I was a typical guy, ADHD. And I've been coping so good my entire life since I have been moving around and I've been like taking jobs that I really like at IKEA. It was an interaction with people. I didn't have to do like a lot of administrative or sitting still, like kind of stuff. So it was good for me. But I noticed it when I moved back home. And then I started to have more things on my daily life schedule that I needed to do. Like I needed to take care of my house. I needed to, in the beginning, find a carpenter to do this, and then electrician, and then I do something to do the tiles, and everything just stacking up. And then I actually got a job which I didn't really like, with a bad boss. So I was just working there, trying really hard. And also on top of that, I was working out for a CrossFit competition. So I went from my home to Åre, which is like 45 minutes, to work out here to do some CrossFit, because I knew in October I'm going to be on this CrossFit competition. I did that 5 times a week. So I was just very like doing things all along. And I didn't realize that I was crashing, but I was very tired. When I was walking around the village, I was like, it hurts in my legs when I'm walking. Like, I'm so tired that it feels like I cannot take myself up this hill, which I can really easily because I'm in good shape. And I searched help, and they were like, I don't know, they didn't take me seriously because I didn't have anything to go on. And my ex-boyfriend, he said to me, you need to do an ADHD test, because we were having fights. Seeing back on it, we were 2 ADHD people, and he was very stubborn, and I was, but he said, you need to do this because of this. And then I didn't have my own reasons why I needed to have the what do you say, the diagnose. But it came in May, one day when I was just open up my computer, and I was starting to work, and I didn't know in which end to start working, and I felt overwhelmed, and I started crying. And then I called my best friend from Marshall, Sanna, and I said, she heard that I was crying, because I was crying, like sobbing, like, and she was like, what is it? And I was like, I'm so tired, and I don't know where to start because I'm working, blah, blah, blah. And she said, Amanda, whatever you're doing now, stop and call your boss and say exactly that you need a rest. Because she is actually a high performance. She's very clever. She's now she's like a leader of tech company. So she's really high positioned, and for her to get there, like, it has taken a lot of energy. So she has also been on the verge of falling down, so to say. And she said, Amanda, wherever you're going now, you don't want to move forward, because this can go really bad. And her dad has actually hit the wall once. He said, it's like you're balancing on a knife's egg. You can do it for quite some time, but as soon as you fall down, it's going to be such a hard time with the recover. It doesn't take 1 month. It doesn't take 1 year. It can take 5 years. So she just told me, stop. And I did. And then I called another friend who also she was diagnosed with utmattningssyndrome. It's like exhaustion
syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. You get exhausted. And she said the same thing. And it started with me being home for 2 weeks. And then I went to the doctor, and I had the best luck with getting a new doctor, and a girl. And she just started asking the right questions. She said, do you have a problem with this and this and that? And then when I read in my journal, because you can do it here, you can see what the doctor said. It says very good, I have a lot of words, but I have a really hard time to keep focus, and I forget what she asks. And that is when your memory is hit, it's a sign that you are exhausted. And then she said, have you ever applied maybe for having ADHD? And I said, I've tried 3 times, but they say that I'm well functioned. And now it's so studied, then they see ADHD, it's diagnosed, and it's most common to find it in women in their 30s, because they can mask it for so long. And then when the everyday life gets too much, that's when it gets overwhelming, and then they get burned out. And I was just lucky. So then she said, okay, we're going to set you up. But it was a very long waiting time to talk with a psychologist. So actually my mom stepped in and said, would you like me to pay to do it private? And I was like, yes. So I just made a video call with a doctor and a psychologist. I made a lot of tests, and you do everything online, and then you have a following up and everything. I think it took 1 month, and they were like, yeah, so 9 out of 9 on concentrations, 9 out of 9 in hyperactivity. And then I did like a focus test where you were supposed to look at shapes. And every time there were 2 shapes in same colors after each other, you were to hit spacebar. But if you think something is boring, you forget about the task. So I was like, oh, you know. And she said, to be applied for ADHD, you need to have 50 points on that test. You had 91. And I was like, whoa, that's the best score I've ever had in any test. Like, nice. So then I was like, just big wow factor for me. Okay, I had really huge problem with this. And then they asked me, what do you want to do? And I was like, yeah, I want to try medication. And it's night and day. It's completely night and day. Like, instead of having 1,000 thoughts and don't know where to start with it, some people have 1,000 thoughts and then they get silent and they don't know how to like start talking. For me, it's opposite. I keep on talking, but maybe it's full of nonsense. It's like blah, 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 blah. So yeah, it's I would say it helped me now in my line of work, but in the future, I'm gonna do something that allows me to be out my medication, so I can just not use it. I don't want to be not addicted to it. I'm not addicted, but I don't want to be don't be
dependent on
it. Yeah.
But if you take your medication, do you miss a part of the you that you know?
No, the only thing, I get less creative when cooking.
Okay.
Yeah, because the thing is, with medication, you can feel that you're not as hungry.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing I'm thinking of is like really fast calories. Like, I should eat something, but what should I eat? I don't know. Yeah, but maybe just do pasta. That's not me. When I'm like really creative, I'm like, oh, I'm just taking this and that. And it's a lot of lentils and vegetables. And I grew up with like ecological and homemade. And my mom said, eat a lot of colors. So everything I'm eating is a lot of colors. So I was just like, oh, okay, cooking. But now, since like my creativeness is like kind of less, I started looking at recipes, which is more fun because I usually don't do that. And then I get another like idea and, I can do that today.
If you as a listener are maybe on medication or wanted to go there, but what's your trajectory? How does that look like? Is it for you like you have to be on it for a year, half a year? Is that depending on how you feel? You have meetups with doctors? How does that work?
It depends on how you feel and how you want to use it. Some people actually need to have it every day because they need to have their life working. I have one friend who is like, she needs to have it every day. Otherwise, it's too much chaos. No. I don't want to have it every day because you get a slightly intolerant. So if I keep on taking it, I need to have higher dosage. So I'm just taking it on my working day. And if I'm home on a Saturday and I know that I need to clean, maybe I'm a big procrastinator, then maybe I will take a smaller, I will take one, but it's like a lower dosage. So I don't get like super, okay, now I'm going to do administrative things, but it's more like a boot in the ass to get up and start doing stuff. But as long as I'm doing things that I like, I don't take it.
And then to break it down or to stop, to exit it, is there
I don't know. I just do. Okay. I just like, nope. I think the thing is, when I haven't taken it for quite some time, I see a huge difference. Now, when I was sick for 2 weeks, I didn't take my medication. The first day when I took it, it's like, instead of having everything you need to do on the front page and you don't know how to sort it and where to start in what order, it's like, I'm going to do this now, and then I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do that.
So the big topic these days is if kids should get these medications. What is your opinion on that? If you look at your younger self.
I say the same thing.
If I look at my younger self, the first thing I would say is that the school system is actually not working. Like, the school system is not made for everyone. It's made for a type of person, and not everybody can do that. So instead of maybe getting your kids in medication, look at another school. There is actually a school that they teach how to count languages and everything, but you do it in a different way that suits the person.
But we live in a village where there is only one school. So how does that work then?
Then I would say it actually does work, the medication, and it won't change your kid. My mom was super afraid of me being completely, but maybe you will be another person and you will be like a zombie and you'll be like, And I was like, talking about her. And then I said, Mom, do you feel now that I'm on my medication? No. Yeah, but I am. Oh. And I was like, yeah, so it won't change you, but it will take some time to actually get the right dosage. And it's super important to have the routine. Like you eat breakfast, then you take the medication. And sometimes you actually need to take something around lunch if you don't want to have like a dip. You eat lunch and then take your medication. Because as soon as you start failing with the routine with food, you will feel more of the side effects of the medication. And that's why when people like, oh, it's not working because I get shaky and I get like super hyper or like I can feel nauseous. Yeah, it's because you haven't eaten when you taken it. So if you go lower dosage and and you are there for your kid, you can like work things out together and maybe have a journal of everything.
Okay, that's a good advice.
So, but you're super happy with it now. That's nice to hear.
Yeah. I am happy because just when I'm doing boring stuff, like sitting behind a computer, it's not made for me. Looking back, if I were to live in a village, I would be a hunter. I would be out like, fish, hunt. I would not collect.
Then why are you doing a job behind a computer? Or is that a really annoying question?
No, it's not. The thing is, I want to do something I love, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to start. I don't know. And then when I get an idea, it's hard for me to start. That's my biggest. I'm a dreamer. I can dream so big, but to actually get there, it's harder. So I'm just trying to look, okay, how can I do something with me? What suits me? Why would you want to work with me? In what way?
I have many reasons. I would hire you straight away.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I think you're a very energetic, positive-minded person. I think that's good to have in any company. But it's interesting what you say, that it's hard for you to turn a dream into action. My whole mindset, what I'm good at is turning a dream into action. To keep it going, that's another story.
Yeah.
Like for me, that start, the initiation is where I thrive. But what is it that keeps you then from turning it into action? Is it fear to do wrong? Is it like...
I think it's laziness.
Okay.
To how do I start?
Yeah.
That's the how part. When I don't know, I don't do it.
Yeah.
Like if it takes me theoretical time to get the knowledge, that is where I'm just like, because I'm practical. I want the things to go like this. If somebody would like give me books and say, Amanda, read this book. And then after you read them, we can start building your company. And this is how we're going to build it. Then I would be like, okay, thank you. Then I know. But now it's like, I don't know where I will start. What will I need to learn? What will suit me? So
it's a bit that HDHD picture you were showing, lots of different things, and you can't find the first one to pick to go from. Interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of your future or where you're going, I saw a post on Instagram of you and Sander Schimmelpenninck.
Yeah.
He is a very well-known Dutch guy, known for his columns, and then he has this really fun podcast, Zelfs podcast, with Ja Brezema. Swedish people don't know them probably, but Ja Brezema is a Dutch artist. And how on earth did you meet with Sander? That I was curious about.
That's a very funny story. The thing is, he started following me on my Instagram one day, and I was like, couldn't read the name. I was like, Sander Schimmelpenninck. I should read in Swedish. And I was like, print screen, send it to Ron. And Ron was like, how on earth did you find him? And why are you following him? And I was like, he's following me. And he was like, what? The funny thing is, he actually had like a small, like, it's not a beef, but he had one friend who really loves Sander. And Ron was like, not very pro of him. He didn't dislike him, but he was like, yeah. So every time there was like something popping up in the news, they just kept sending it to each other about him. And like, so that he had been talking to that friend just the same week, and I print screen and say, who's this? And he's like, what is universe trying to tell me? Why is he popping up in my girlfriend's feed? What? And and then because I have my email in my Instagram, and then he sent me an email and he said, hi, Amanda. So my name is Sander Schimmelpenninck and come from the Netherlands, and I'm looking to buy a hotel. And I saw a hotel that is for sale in your village. I started to Google, and then you popped up. And I just wanted to know some few things. And since you are a local, I would like to know if we can have a talk about it. And I was like, okay, yeah. And then he just had some questions. Why is the hotel so cheap? Where is it located? How is it to get there? How is the nature around it? He had a lot of things because he realized that the south of Europe, it's getting overheated. It's a little crowded. So he wants to.
And his wife is Swedish.
Oh,
if
yeah,
I'm correct.
Lotta.
So yeah.
But they were actually aiming to have something in the mountains. And we just had a talk, and I came with a lot of ideas, as idea sprout I am. And he said, I really like your energy. And then the hotel actually was in the end of the a bargaining era, or so to say. So he didn't get that hotel. But he said, I have no plan of what I want to do next, but I'm aiming to do something around Jämtland. But I would like for you to be a part. Cool. I don't know how. I don't know how we will do it. And I said, I don't know what I can do for you either, because what do you need? I don't know if I can give it to you, but he just liked my vibe. And then when I was down in Leeuwarden in Netherlands, before going to Groningen, I actually we met up and had a lunch together. And when we were there, I realized, oh, okay, I knew you were famous, but you actually are famous. We were sitting there and people were looking, and then I said to him, so are you famous? And he was like, yeah. So the people around here know who you are. And he was like, yeah. Who are you? And can you tell me about your history and family and that? And then I actually learned. But I was like, okay, that's cool. Sitting here with blonde sweet. No. So yeah. So we were just in the talking phase that we might want to do something.
But that's cool. But that's where things start. What do you say? If you have all these ideas in your mind, it's all about meeting with the right people and just sharing those ideas. And then at some point, the right person says, okay, let's go for it. And bam, something is created. The secret to life. Just talking to people, I think, is the magic in a lot of things. Don't be afraid to ask for help or brainstorm or get ideas together. So I'm very curious where you guys are going to end up together, if that's going to work out.
Too.
And I can't wait. I think he has a very creative mind. So I think he can definitely make things happen.
We actually share Pinterest together.
Oh, you
got ideas. But yeah, it's quite funny because I just saw the opportunity that opened up when he was talking about the hotel, because my grandpa built the hotel in the 30s. So it's for me, it's very close to heart. And also Sällsjö is very close to heart because we are in Åre kommun, and people are all around Sweden and also parts in Europe know about Åre. But there's a huge municipality with so many beautiful things. And here we have this amazing hotel it's built in a funky style, very squarey. But if you look at it, it almost looks like a ship on a cliff, because it's built in sections, and it's super beautiful and has amazing view. So I just saw him coming here, and I was like, yeah, of course. And then I can work and I can help you, and we can get tourists here, because fuck Åre. But we can just skip that and just bring them here. So it was so much fun to actually just meet him. And I think that, as you said, if you meet the right persons, I'm really good with connections. So I said to him, whatever you need, I can help you. I know people in all of different types of work. If you need a really good carpenter, I have good carpenters.
Did he look into Milles Garden?
I don't know.
Okay, that went down in price. I think it's still for sale. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I will maybe send it to him. He has his eyes on something else. I know, but I cannot talk about it yet because it's not written down.
Okay. Cool. Are you involved in that?
A little bit, yeah.
Pinterest. Okay. There you go.
Yeah, Pinterest. No, but yeah, we were supposed to meet now the last of in October, but then there were some people who was key persons who couldn't come up, so we couldn't meet. And now we were supposed to meet on Saturday, but then I'm away.
So things are moving. Yeah,
some things is happening. It might go slow because the main issue is he has Dutch money. And then he needs he has investors and everything, but then he needs a Swedish bank, and a lot of Swedish banks is putting money there. They maybe don't see the goal as what he do. Yeah, they don't see the end result.
Yeah.
And do you still see yourself living here in 10 years, or is the Netherlands part of a potential ending up station.
No. The thing is, when I went to Groningen the first time, I was in Amsterdam once before going to Groningen, but it's beautiful, but not for me. I was like, it's so flat. And one day, Gerlinde, Ron's sister, said, we're gonna go to the forest and gonna go around the forest. I was like, yeah. And then Ron said, Amanda, forest here is not a forest. The forest here is like a small park with trees, with people. And I was like, okay. We came there and I was like, okay, I get what you mean. Because here in the forest, I basically just put my boots on and then I'm out in the forest and I don't meet anybody. If I meet a neighbor, it's like 1 out of 20 times I do that. So I was like, okay, I understand. I would not like that. And Ron doesn't want to go back either.
No, that's good. And is there anything on your bucket list that we should know about?
I have a lot of things on my bucket list.
Tell us.
I want to climb a volcano in Ecuador.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanna go. There's like a small village in I think it's Japan that is called Sweden Hills.
What?
It's built in Swedish ways, all the houses, and they also paint them red with white ends, and they have Swedish traditions. So they said like it's a really interesting like travel, destination, because it's like Sweden's traditions meeting the Japan's traditions.
The fusion.
Yeah, it's like a very infusion, and they do it like very much. They dress like Sweden, but what they think is Sweden. And they've been there, I think, since the 70s, because some Swede traveled there, and he realized like, oh, the climate is basically the same as in Sweden. So that's where it started. And then I want to go to South America, and it's like a lot of things.
So mostly travel plans.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Like that's our future goal. Now, me and Ron, we were like, okay, we're gonna save money. He's investing in some stocks, and I'm just letting him invest in stocks. I have no plan. I'm just earning money. But I want to be able to work from everywhere in the world. That's my future goal. And then I want to live in Sällsjö. I don't know if I want to have kids today, but if I'm looking back to what I had when I was a kid, I want to give that to my kids. When I moved down to Gothenburg, that was when I actually realized that my childhood was insane. It was it was extraordinary. I had a horse. I said to my mom one day when I was 8, Mom, I want to have like hen chickens. And she said, yeah, I'm not going to take care of them. And I was like, okay, stole her credit card, ordered a hatching machine. And my mom was working at Kretsloppshuset, which is like cafe, but they have their own like chickens. So when she was working there, I just looked and I found some eggs and I was like, yeah, putting them in my pocket. And then I went home to my hatching machine. So I actually had like chickens, went to the local Pelle och Lisa, like the hatching farm, where then you can buy like a old like hen, but it's not old, but they live only 2 years maybe, but you can buy it for 50 kroners. That is like €4. And then you get like a white chicken, and then they make really nice, beautiful eggs. So I had my little chicken farm going on, and they couldn't say anything about it because I did it myself with like my friend who moved into the village when I was 8. So yeah, just doing that. And then my dad was a private, he had like a small airplane. So when I was in kindergarten, he said like, not go to kindergarten today. You're going to follow me. I need to have my hours in the air. So we were just flying around in the airplane. And my brother had like a dirt bike. So
nice.
That sounds like a really good youth.
Yeah. We didn't have PlayStation. We didn't I did soccer for 1 season, but then my dad said, you will hurt your knees. If you stop playing soccer, I will give you a moped when you turn 15. And I was like, okay. So stop playing soccer. I think he didn't like driving me there, but we had everything at home, like going out in the forest with tools to build our own thing, to just cut down a tree. Like nobody knew what we were doing, but we were standing there cutting down big trees, like, like, oh wow, woo, timber. So stuff like that. Timber. Yeah.
It's so nice to hear that you can have such a good upbringing and youth in a small town.
Yeah.
In somewhere in Sweden, because it's very small, right?
Yeah, but it gives you a lot of freedom.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, my mom and dad didn't have to worry that I was being hit by a car. They didn't have to worry that somebody came and snatched me, or like, it was so like no worries at all. When I was back out horseback riding with my horse in the summertime, they didn't know where I was, but we had a big bell, so they just rang it because we live on the hill of the village. So if I were 10 minutes away, even more, I could hear it. So I was like, oh, dinner, just take him home. Not trotting, but like galloping home, tying him to the we had on the stairway to the house. So I just tied him there, had my dinner, and then went back out again.
There's such a difference with today. We noticed that all the kids are getting phones earlier and earlier, and our daughter doesn't have it yet. I'm not totally against it, but we communicated with her about it. Like, do you really need it? And the conclusion was no. But a lot of kids around her have phones, and often it is for the parent to feel more at ease that if something happens, they can call.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting because there used to be so much more trust that everything would be okay. And we, for example, asked our daughter, okay, let's say you are somewhere and that person that you were going to visit is not there. So they don't open the door, you're there all alone. What do you do? And then she said, well, I'll go to the neighbor and knock on the door. And I'm like, oh, there you go. Like, it's in the end, we know inherently how to solve a problem. But often now, I think we're so scared of our kids having to deal with issues that we try to avoid it.
But think about like back in the day, like when my mom was like a youth, she said, I don't know how my parents actually let me go traveling alone in Europe. She went out sailing. She went like riding with the train, and then she stopped somewhere, called them, and then actually when she was out with a sailboat, she came to the Canary Islands. I think it was the Canary Islands, or maybe the Sicily, down in Italy. And she didn't have a visa for the country, so she didn't know how to fly home. But in some way, my grandpa knew how to get money down to her, so she could actually like take the train home and then the bus, and they just fixed it. But they didn't have that much conversation. It was some phone calls and then some letters, but so we can deal with it, but we're too lazy, we're too comfortable to just think about it.
Do you have any advice for our listeners if they ever want to join a TV show in general?
Yeah, like I would say be you. Like, don't try to be anyone else. And then also have the question in your mind, like, who are you? Have a clear answer. Don't hesitate. Like, this is me. So if you're going to be that, who am I? Yeah, I'm kind of funny and I'm caring. Then you'll be like, okay, you're boring. But if you know exactly, like, this is me and this is how I will react in certain situations, then you will be more colorful. And that's, I think, they want colorful people.
Yeah, I think that's a very good advice. And is there anything you still want to share about where people can find you on the Instagram or something else or any?
Yeah, they can find me on Amanda Katarina on Instagram. But I'm just posting my everyday life about my little village life. How it is to live in a village with 28 people, or me being out picking mushrooms and just stuff like that. And maybe I'm aiming to become better at that, but it's also time consuming. I don't want to be too much on my phone either.
I also don't think there's a good or a bad. I think it's just you being you, and at that moment in your life, and just share, just be. I think that's really cool. It's fun to follow you. I do, so I highly recommend it. And we'll put your account in the description.
Thank you.
And to wrap it up, we have some rapid fire fun. Skiing or snowboarding?
Oh, okay. Skiing, I'm really good at, but I think it's boring. So I'm trying to learn snowboarding, but I also broke my wrist 2 years ago, so I'm scared of it. But I would say snowboarding because it's more...
Good answer.
Yeah.
If you need more lessons, this guy can help you out.
Nice.
Evening person or morning person?
Evening person.
Hot tub or sauna?
Hot tub.
Hiking or biking?
Is it like downhill biking?
Whatever you make it.
I love hiking because then it's like you walking up. If you're going to cycle up, it's going to be super hard. I would say hiking.
And that's it. That's all. Thank you for today.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have one more question, but did you have any negative fallout from the participation in the show, or positive? Or
I only had positive.
Nice.
I would say. Since I was very honest and I kept to my values, people saw that I was being genuine.
Yeah, okay.
And the people who didn't like me on the show was very ungenuine, and they were actually really mean. Think about how somebody's bullying somebody in school. They acted that way. And I was like, so when I was there, I was targeted and my self-esteem was so low. So when I came home, Kajsa, for example, she knew that I was there. And I said, Kajsa, I don't know what I've said. I don't know what I've done, but I think I've made a fool out of myself. And I think that people will hate me. And she was like, whoa, no, what have you done? And I was like, I don't know, but I just think it's not, I don't think it's good. Because they told me, you talk too much, you are too much, you do this and you do that. But they didn't give me any concrete things, but they all kept on saying it. So my self-esteem was really hurt. But when they started broadcasting it, I saw it was not me. It was them. And people actually saw that I was being me. I was being genuine. And I was, since they were targeting me so hard, people took my,
your side.
Yeah, my side.
So other people maybe got more negative feedback.
Yes.
After the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we had like a WhatsApp group, and they were like, "Oh my God, now it's soon to be broadcasted, and we're gonna be famous. Oh my God!" You know, they were acting like that. And me being on the show, I didn't want to be on the show because I wanted to become famous. I wanted to go there because it was an adventure. There was something I didn't know anything about it. So, so they thought that they were going to be very famous and they're going to have a lot of collaborations and stuff. And then the first episode, when they see, like, the first episode, you know, the man on man that I was talking about, swimming 50 meters, everybody was sitting in a group talking on my boat, like, yeah, so who's going to swim and who's going to do this and who's going to do that? And I didn't even think about it. I just said, I like swimming. And I think I'm pretty good because I have really big hands. I have really big feet. We've been out like snorkeling a lot when I was a kid. And so they're like, yeah, you're going to do it. Before I knew it, I was standing there, and then the crew asked me to just like do some warm up. And I was like, oh, okay. And then they filmed this, and I was just standing. And then they filmed the other guy, Erik, and he looked super ripped, very tight. And I was like, okay. And I said, so they made the good-looking ones compete against each other, huh? Like, and he's like, yeah. And then we swam, and I actually won. And I won huge time. Like, they said to him, what is happening with Erik? It looks like he's stuck in one place. And when I was swimming there, like, oh my God, you know, coming up, winning, sitting there like, oh shit, he's actually so far behind me. Like, seeing that in the first episode and how they portrayed me, I was like, okay, but you know, you cannot hope too much of anything. But then they just kept on like having me as me, like not being bad, just being good, like trying to help. Sometimes maybe like something jumped out of my mouth, but it was not a mean comment. It was more like just, oh, sorry. And when the show kept on going, I could notice that some people got really angry. Yeah, really.
Do you still want to be on another TV show one day?
Maybe. The right one. I actually got questions to be on the challenge, the one that was broadcasted just now.
What is it?
It's like it's an American thing, but you put semi-celebrities in a house, and then they got to compete against each other, but you have food and everything. And I think you're supposed to team up with another, like a partner, and it needs to be of the other gender. And they called me, I think in May last year, and they were like, yeah, so would you be able to go on the challenge? It's this and that concept. And it's like more like extreme competitions, like maybe hanging upside down in a steel rig 6 meters above like the water. Like, that's not Robinson, but it's more like that. And I was like, I just need to ask my boss, but okay. And my boss said, absolutely, Amanda, go. And then they said, because there was a girl who didn't get clearance from the doctor, but then she got a clearance. So they said to me, oh no, she got a clearance, so not this time. And I was like, okay. But now watching at it, it's like Big Brother on steroids. They're like drinking alcohol, making fool out of themselves, and it's like betrayal. It's like, yeah, but no, I don't want to do that. But I could easily see myself doing something maybe not elitstyrkans hemligheter, if you know what that is. It's like very military training for 2 weeks,
like
extreme. They actually like film it here around. That is too extreme. But yeah, I don't know, something maybe.
Yeah, okay. But you had a good experience in a way that you would do it again in some way if it fits.
Yeah.
Right? You still want to ask something about the influencer thing that you said?
Yeah, no, but we were just talking about it, that you went to an influencer school in Holland or something. It was kind of interesting. I don't know if that is specifically only in Holland or is that over the world already? Or
only in that school, in
only
Leeuwarden.
in that school?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
What I know of, they realized that the new media is the influencers. So if they can teach influencers how to do it authentically and with the cultural differences and have a good heart, like whatever you're posting, it's come from a good place. They knew that the viewers will be much more than even whatever newspaper there is today. So it was an experiment. So they have different classes, and I think the students, there are some students who study this, and then they invite influencers 2 times a year, so one each semester, and have them for 1 week, and then they like put together everything for us to learn. So it's very interesting, and then they have some teachers who talk.
And how did you end up there?
My boyfriend's best friend Jeff, his girlfriend Sarah is one of the teachers there, and she's just examined. Like she just became a teacher. So Ron said to Jeff, "I think Amanda could be like good at this." And then Sarah looked at my Instagram and she said like, "Yeah," but I was like, "But I'm not gaining followers because I'm a good influencer. I've gained followers because people like me because I was me. But I'm not actively trying to grow my account." But they said it's good to have one like you as well, because not everybody can be the same.
Yeah.
So it was a good experience.
Yeah.
Are you going to go back, or is that done?
Yeah, if I get invited to, I will definitely go back.
So they change up the people that come there.
Yeah.
Nice.
So every time it's different. And then they ask the students, like, who would you like to come? So I had one Danish girl who's very, like, she's vegan and very sustainable thinking. And she has 200,000 followers maybe on her Instagram account. And she has a huge YouTube. And she talks about sustainability and vegan and how to recycle and upcycle things. So Gitte Marie, she was Gide Marie. She was asked to go there, and she was like super. It was so cool because when you meet her, I got a little bit terrified. I was like, "Whoa, you're so well read into your subject, and you are really you on your content." I feel like a fraud. But then last night we went out, and like she was very friendly. Like she was really friendly. But then she had this flip side, and I was like, "Okay, I fucking love you." She has this very good side of her being sustainable, but then she can also be very like, wow, let's party, like that side. And we had one from Belgium, Liam, and he didn't have much followers then. He was like maybe 5,000, but on his Instagram it said future ministry of education, because he's targeting the younger group, and he's been on very like huge meetings around the EU. I don't know what, but he's been talking like in podiums, and he's young, and he looks like a cool dude, like with like very cool clothing. So when he came there, he had like blonde hair, and I was like, "Who's him? Oh my god, and who's he?" And then we had Yongshin. She won the makeup competition thing. It's like a Netflix thing when you. Makeup.
That show, yeah, I've seen it.
And she also had like a huge following.
And what did you learn from it specifically?
How to be authentic, like just to have a clear message. And the thing is, that was just around the time when I was being exhausted. So my memory was really bad. So I was like sitting there like, okay, shit, I should remember this. But I think I just like try to mix things up in the content you create, but keep your core in who you are, and don't try to be anything that you're not.
Yeah.
That is my main thing that I like remembered. Many of the ones who were there, they started doing different reels, because you were in one task, you were put in a group, but then you were supposed to create a reel. But I had to create a reel that looked like Gitte Marie, for example. And I was like, oh, how would I do that? Sustainability thinking, and but then people actually was like, oh, so you can do it like this. Okay, with voiceover, we can do it like that. One girl never showed her face because she didn't want her face to be on her Instagram account, because she shared a lot of relationship advices. But then she was like, no, I will actually have my face on it, and I will give, like, she will talk to the camera and she's from Italy. She has this like very nice Italy like
accent.
Exact accent, yeah. And then she just like, look at me, this is my first video, and they sent it in the group, and I was like, yeah, really good. So people like evolved, like, okay, you do that, I will also try to do that.
Yeah, so you feed off each other. That's nice. That always works well. Like, creates a lot of energy.
Yes.
And ideas.
Yeah.
Cool.
It was really fun.
At some point.
Yeah,
really
if you
cool.
want to, I can absolutely tip them about you guys, because it was an amazing school. The hotel we lived in, it's a school as well, so everybody's working there. It's like students. The restaurant that we ate in, also students. So everything was like students. The first years they have like what do you say, like a mentor who's in the second year, and then in the third year they're out actually working on places. So it's always students you meet, and then they have like cafeterias where also there's students working, and it's, I think he said maybe 5,000 students in that school. So it is huge, but then they have more than hotel and restaurant and everything. So they had everything. And then Leeuwarden was amazing to visit. So it was cool.
Nice. Put it on our list.